Hey folks, yesterday I had an experience. Maya and I went into Halifax to run some errands, and on the way back she bought a car. Now she'd been looking at this car for a few days, she'd been thinking about a new car for a few weeks. The one she's driving it needs to be put down. We walked in, she test drove the car, she liked the car. First major purchase, so she's feeling kind of anxious about buying the car. Everybody seems nice enough. I start asking questions. I'm not getting any answers. Interest rate starts at one number, goes up to a huge number, drops down to another number, drops down to another number. Price goes from one to another, to another, to another. Whenever I ask about the price, they just keep telling me how much every 2 weeks. And I'm saying, I don't care about the payment plan. I want to know the price of the vehicle. Well, it's going to be this every 2 weeks. And you could see that even though the interest rate was going up or down, that every 2 weeks price was always the same. It's going to be this much every 2 weeks. No matter what the interest rate was, no matter what the terms were, it was always going to be this much every 2 weeks. Now, my logical, cynical brain goes into high gear in those situations, and I can't quite figure out why. How come when the interest rate goes up, it's still that price, and when the interest rate goes down, it's still that price, and when the term goes from 48 months to 60 months to 36 months, it's still that same price? That doesn't jive with me. From a financial perspective, the little bit that I know about finance, that doesn't work. Terms, rates, down payment, cost, all those kinds of things impact. Anyway, I'm getting lost in it again. The bottom line, we sat down for Maya to buy the car, and then I began seeing why that price didn't budge. It was always going to be that much every 2 weeks. Because as the interest rate went up, other things went down, and as the term extended, other things were tacked on, and when the bottom line is there's a whole bunch of these little tiny miscellaneous, and if you've ever purchased a car, those optional, not optional charges, you're stuck with them because that's just the way it is. Again, that part of me becomes agitated. So here my logical brain is not being satisfied with what they're telling me. And now that other part of me who is being told that this is the way it is and there's no way out of it, well, he starts barking as well. Maya was a trooper though. Maya was a trooper. She held her composure. I tried my best to hold my tongue until I couldn't. And then, well, bottom line, I didn't feel like much of a Christian at the end of that experience. I didn't feel like much of a Christian. I didn't feel like I had been terribly loving to those people. I did not feel like I had been an example of Jesus Christ in that moment. I mean, Jesus, turn the other cheek. Go the extra mile. Give them your coat too. Love your enemy. I didn't feel like I was a great Christian example throughout that experience. And by the end of it, I didn't really care. I just didn't want my daughter to be taken advantage of. I didn't want her to be taken advantage of in one of these situations by folks who might call her little lady or try to convince her not to buy a standard because, well, you can imagine why. I talked to my wife last night about that feeling of not being a Christian, not being a very good Christian, failing the test, failing the moment. What she said to me was, I think you're wrong. You were a very good Christian. You stood up for your daughter. You stood up against people who were trying to overcharge your daughter, who were trying to get one past her. Making this world into the place it really could be. We're going to have encounters that get heated. We're going to have encounters much more important than buying a car. But those moments are going to become heated. We're going to become agitated. We're going to become frustrated. We're going to have to sit back afterwards and reflect on our part of it. We may not feel like we've been the model of Jesus Christ we always hope to be. But in those moments when we are frustrated, when we are agitated, when we are standing up, when we are encountering others, trying to help them change their mind, trying to help them change policy, trying to change the laws, trying to bring about justice and equality and inclusivity. To some, we may not appear to be a very good Christian. But to those we're standing up for, we may be the greatest example of a Christian they've ever seen. It's important for us to recognize who we are doing these things for. When we recognize that, I think maybe we're able to see the quality of person we're actually being. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. I pray that if you should ever have one of these encounters, reflect on it. Reflect on it. Be introspective about it. Be honest about it with yourself. And in the end, be merciful. See yourself as you are. A loving child of God, growing every single day, who in a moment chose to stand up for what they thought was right in that moment, as Christ would. Amen.